Welcome to Brain Atlas, Chapter 1 Brain Basics by 𝔸𝕝𝕒𝕚𝕤𝕚. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, which is divided into two hemispheres, and it's the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. These two hemispheres are connected by the most famous nerve tract of all, the corpus callosum. And the surface is covered by cerebral cortex. There are four lobes in the brain. The frontal lobe, which is the front of the brain, and it is located right above the eyes, and that coordinates voluntary movements and problem solving and critical thinking. The parietal lobes are right behind the frontal lobe, and it controls sensory signals and some visual signals. The temporal lobe is the side of the brain below the eyes, and it controls auditory info and some visual info. But for visual info, we have the occipital lobes, and that decodes the colors and shapes that we see. There are three major brain parts: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. The forebrain consists of the limbic system, which is the hippocampus, amygdala, thalamus, and the hypothalamus. Hippocampus encodes new memories and emotions. Amygdala controls memory and emotions. Thalamus controls sensory information and relaying job. And hypothalamus controls the signals through the pituitary gland. As you can see, the limbic system is really involved in emotions and memory. The midbrain involves involuntary movement control and the basal ganglia, which controls complex body movements. The hindbrain controls glucose levels and sleep. The cerebellum, which is part of the hindbrain, is the second largest part of the brain after the cerebrum, and it is just like the cerebrum, it's divided into two hemispheres and connected by a nerve tract, and it helps the brain learn new skills. The pons are crucial for breathing and posture. Medulla oblongata, also part of the hindbrain, carries nerve pathways to help with the heart rate, swallowing, and breathing. Neuronal networks. There are three or four parts to this neuronal network system. Nerve fibers are neurons. Nerve tracts are groups of nerve fibers. Nerve networks are groups of nerve tracts, as you can see on the right top corner. And reflex loops are basically reflexes. Like, for example, you get a hammer and smack the knee. There is a reflex that lets the bottom of the leg go forward and the back of the leg go backward, which is a reflex or a production of actions before thoughts. Next is brainwaves. EEG, or electroencephalogram, is a machine that actually controls or records brainwaves in the brain. And this is detected by using electrical patterns. So, as you can see in the table, gamma waves are for concentration, ranging from 30 to 80 hertz frequency, and so it's really frequent. Beta waves are for doing regular activities, and it is from 13 to 30 hertz frequency. Alpha waves are while the brain is relaxed, and so it's from 8 to 12.99 hertz frequency. Theta waves are during the first two stages of sleep. The first two stages of sleep are light sleep, and it's just the time when you're just closing your eyes, which is from 4 to 7.99 hertz frequency. And delta waves is stage 3, which is REM sleep, or the stage before REM sleep is also involved, which is deep sleep. And this is from 1 to 3.99 hertz of frequency. Types of neurons. There are two main types of neurons: excitatory neurons and inhibitory neurons. Excitatory neurons send signals to make neighbors fire. Inhibitory neurons prevent the neighbors from firing signals. The neuron has many parts, and these are the main parts of the neuron. The nucleus, the most crucial part, contains the DNA and what the neuron is supposed to do. The cell body contains the nucleus. The dendrites are the tree-like branching projections from the cell body, which collect signals from other neurons. Next comes the axon, which is the length of the neuron, and it relays the information to the axon terminals. Covering the axon is the myelin, which is produced by glia, which we will talk about in a few moments. And the glia cell is a cell that is composes of 4 types, and one of the types is oligodendrocytes, which produces myelin. Myelin is a lipid layer protecting the axon and speeding up signals. This leads into the axon terminal, which the signals are passed through to other neurons. Between each bunch of myelin is a little space which exposes the axon to the environment. That space is called the node of Ranvier, and between that space, the signal has to jump from each myelin to another, which gives it a pause to think about if this signal is crucial or not. Types of glia. There are 4 types of glia. One is astrocytes, which, as you can see in the name, look like stars, and they regulate ion concentrations and provide nutrients. Ependymal cells actually compose of making cerebrospinal fluid, and they cushion the brain, and these really similarly look like skin cells. Oligodendrocytes are cells that produce myelin and improve neuronal function. Microglia are immune cells which protect the brain from infections. Action potentials. So this action potential, also called a membrane potential, is a potential voltage based on each stage of it. So the first stage is like normal, and then there's depolarization, which makes the membrane potential less negative. And then there's the repolarization, which makes it more negative and goes down into hyperpolarization, which makes it even more negative than necessary, which makes it go to equilibrium again, which is resting state. Synaptic transmission. There are many parts to this. The first part is Golgi apparatus, which is crucial to know because the Golgi apparatus is a protein packaging organelle. And receptors, there are 2 main receptors in the brain, ionotropic receptors and metabotropic receptors. Ionotropic receptors bind directly to the ion channel. Metabotropic receptors are the same thing except they're more complex. Reuptake is the process of the neurotransmitters being reabsorbed by the axon terminal for various reasons, which we will talk about later. Neurotransmitters come in different types. Glutamate is one of them, and it's excitatory. It's an excitatory neuron, as we talked about earlier. GABA is an inhibitory neuron, and it is an immunomodulator, and this consists of endocannabinoids, which are cannabis-like modulators, and these suppress neurotransmitters. Thank you for watching Chapter 1, Brain Basics, with the Brain Atlas.